Okay, guys, welcome. It's our right voice for you facilitator, Sylvia Puentas, is in the house to talk to us about, well, first of all, what is right voice? Because there seems to be this thing in the world where we make right voice about singing. So we really wanted to get Sylvia on here today and talk to us about yeah, you can facilitate your own voice, but also what else is right voice about you, and what facilitating right voice kind of looks like. If you could even just give us a glimpse into what it looks like in the next kind of 45 minutes or hour, whatever we're on for.
Yeah, first of all, I just really want to thank you. There's an incredible team in the back end really making this Zoom possible. It's so much is going, Sylvia, we need a date and a time. So I'm so grateful. And one, I'm also grateful to bring it to you all in English because there's so much that I do in Spanish that I don't always bring this information out in English. So please use this time for whatever question you have about right voice or anything else that comes up for you. Yeah, so please, please, please ask your questions. There's a chat, or you can get off mute and ask your question. And I'm so grateful this looking at what Right Voice for You, the specialty program of Access Consciousness, has transformed and changed. I would say maybe, it started, I don't even know how many years ago, but let's say even 5 years ago, if you would have looked up Right Voice, if you would have heard or seen videos, it really had more of an energy of performing, about, being in front of a stage and singing. There was a lot to do with singing. And not that that's not one of the things that we play with in a class, but it's not required. It really, Gary has actually given us a new energy of what's possible with Right Voice. And it really is inviting each and every person to really be in the question, what would you like to create in the world? In what expression would you like to express that in? And if there was no right or wrong, like, we are expressing our voice in so many ways. And I'm so grateful. I've been attending many access classes, and Gary, just about every class says something about Right Voice. And the recent thing he just said, which I actually recorded too, I was just in Italy at Casal Borgone, the castle in Italy. Beautiful. If you ever get a chance to go, please, it's an experience, an unbelievable, homey, luxurious, elegant experience. The castle has a voice. But one of the things that he said about Right Voice, it's almost like when you are you and at home wherever you go. And I thought that was so interesting. I go, when you are you and you are at home wherever you go, it's almost like if you guys all kind of get a sense of maybe your space in your home, there's, many people kind of say, oh, I can't wait to get home. And it's like, what is that about? Is it the space where you finally can kick up your feet and really kind of be you and like that sense of relaxation? So really, Right Voice for You is inviting you to have that no matter where you're at. So what if you could be in a board meeting? What if you could be having a conversation with a person and have that relaxation that then invites you to be present with everything and really be in the question of what's going to create the most? So that's kind of like this, invitation to play with energy and really like, what would you like to create in that conversation, in that situation? We have all the incredible access tools that in the Right Voice for You, the 3-day class, we actually get to play with so dynamically. And there's people that are like, I've been playing with this tool of dropping my barriers for a long time, and I have such a different sense of it. And for me, it is that dynamic sense of having, like, what is that like in your body when you finally go, oh, this is what it feels like in my body when I drop my barriers. Oh, this is what it creates. So really, in a Right Voice for You, that's the dynamic of playing with the tools. Yes, Amy.
Sylvia, I love that. Okay, so I'm from Ireland and I'm living in Florida. So when I first moved here, like, because I have an accent, and I got a job in this kind of like fancy restaurant. Well, I thought it was fancy. I thought I shouldn't be working there. It was like Asian. I didn't even know what sushi was or wasabi. I had to learn all these words. I didn't know what a martini was. And all the clientele that went there were like, had money and they'd spend a lot. So I kind of felt like when I'd go up to a table at the time at the start, they didn't know what I was saying. Like, I'd say, do you want water? And they were like, what? And I'm like, do you want water? I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, I need to like slow down my words, or like I had to like kind of change my voice a bit so that they actually understood what I was saying. And so after kind of a couple of years of working in restaurants, I noticed that I actually have like a restaurant voice, and people notice it. So they'll, like, when I go to the table first, I'll do my little spiel, you know, like, hey, welcome, da, 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 you know. And then after a while, if they start talking to me, and like we talk about, you know, you talk about being at home and being relaxed, they're like, oh my God, I can really hear your accent now. You know, and then I'm like, oh, that's because we're having a normal conversation, you know. But like when we're having this like formal thing, it's like my voice changes. So like I get what you're saying. I always say like, well, some people say to me in the restaurant, oh, you don't really have that much of an accent, and some people say I do. And then I realize, well, if I'm at home, my voice is my voice. It doesn't change. Like, you know, when I'm with Mike, my voice doesn't change. So can we talk about all the different voices we have, like the facilitator voice, the mother voice, the, you know, like the teacher voice, the corporate voice? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So that's a great example of what we do to, and one is being aware that you do it and you can do it. Because what if you could use that? You're like, oh, I can actually change my voice. So what are you aware of that in changing your voice, it actually creates? And really being in the questions like, oh, is this actually creating what I would like it to create? Are you getting bigger tips? Are you, you know, whatever that might be for you, like that people feel comfortable and at ease with you. It's like, so really, what would you like to create in every situation? And then, yeah, you can change that. So everywhere you guys have judged yourself for your voice, or where you've changed it, that you shouldn't change it, you're not being you, all of that, would you be willing to destroy and uncreate all of that?
Yeah.
And this is where we start to look at the energy that might be locked up there, where you judged yourself and made yourself wrong. And really with the Access Consciousness clearing statement, we energetically can begin to clear that energy. And it's not a cognitive thinking, which is what I so love about Access, and to play with it in a Right Voice for You class, because sometimes we don't know why. And what if you didn't have to know why? So everything that brought up for you guys about all the different voices that you have and everywhere you've made that wrong, right and wrong, good and bad, pun, puck, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And I love it because really judgment is probably the biggest thing that's gonna prevent you from actually becoming aware of what is going on and what you can change. So really, in a lot of what we do in Right Voice is we begin to look at all the judgments you have. So for you, Amy, it's like, how much were you judging your voice at the beginning that people couldn't understand you, right?
Yeah.
And
well, I had the judgment that I wasn't good enough to work there, you know? So then I had to like try to be more proper.
So no one else, I'm sure, is doing that anywhere. It's like, I'm not good enough. So you got to mutilate yourself and change yourself whenever you can.
And I noticed when some people like, okay, so I love listening to your voice, Sylvia. Like what I was saying in a post on Facebook, like Sylvia could talk about anything and I just can't help but listen. And you have like, there's just there's something in your voice that's very easy to listen to. And then some people, when they like, even, you know, when they speak, it's like, I can't listen to their voice goes through me. So is that when we're not being authentic with our voice, like when we're trying to be something we're not, or?
So what do you know about that, Amy, already?
Yeah, I think it's that. Yeah.
There's something we talk about, congruency, when people are actually speaking to what's true in the moment and the energy of that. And I have to say, like, I've peeked at old videos. I haven't watched them. Someone's like, oh my gosh, Sylvia, some of your old videos compared to now. But there is more of a sense when you have more of the joy of who you be, like really when you actually have more of a sense, and it's not like you have your mission statement written out, but you have more of a sense of what you'd like to create. So for me, one of the things as I travel around the world and facilitate Right Voice for You or other classes, it's like, I'm really truly looking to empower people to have more of them. I'm truly looking for people to have more of an ease and enjoyment of living. Like that, if I could say I have a target, that's it. I mean, I know that having more joy on the planet is going to change it. It's going to create a greater planet. So knowing that when I facilitate and when I speak, that's part of it. That's kind of where my voice is coming from. And Gary actually asked us facilitators, he's all like, where's your voice coming from? So you may want to begin to ask this, like, where's your voice coming from? And there, you know, we played with it in class physically, but it's also like, what if you could speak with every molecule of your body? And what is that? Well, just ask for it. What would it be like to speak with every single molecule in my body? So it's interesting. There was also a moment where, and I'm sharing a lot with you guys today of what's even changed for me, because I want to let you know that this ease of speaking or being in front of people wasn't always there. There's a different energy, and it has been every single class that I facilitate, I also receive. And when I ask questions to Gary or Dane, that I receive more awareness or information or about what I am choosing, what is possible, and what I would like to see on the planet. But one day I was in a class, and Gary asked me, he goes, now speak in Spanish. I'm like, ¿qué quieres que diga? ¿Qué quieres que diga? Los saludo. I started to say something in Spanish. And in that moment, I was like, it was like night and day. All the energy. So you talking about, your Irish accent. When I changed language, in that moment, I changed it. It was like Spanish was like the sense of, where English was more of this like formal. And so the great thing about even a simple question like that and noticing the difference is that I began to go, wow, what am I choosing to be when I speak Spanish that I'm not choosing to be when I speak English? Not right or wrong, good or bad. It's just like, oh, I actually grew up. For those of you that maybe have a second language or are part of another, or are from another country or in a different country, like Amy, I started to notice that growing up in California, speaking Spanish or coming from a Mexican family, it was seen as a wrongness. It was seen like you were less than, and people treated you that way. So somehow along the way, there was a sense like, I need to speak different and be a different energy. And yet noticing that now going, oh, well, what else is available? And that really through the question, what else is available and who are you? If you actually allowed that to show up more, the difference you be, whatever that is for you, that's what people notice.
Sylvia?
Go
ahead. Yeah. I was just wondering, and it doesn't have to be right this moment if somebody else has a question, but I was just wondering if you could talk, and I apologize for the background noise, about like finding what is your voice and what it is that you are here to like communicate and express and be in the world. I know Gary talked a lot about that in this last class about like, what did you come here to be? And that's really the thing that stuck with me is like, what did I come here to be? And what does that look like, sound like? So that's something I was curious, because you're saying like right voice for you has changed so much in that direction. If you could talk a little bit more about like, what does it take to kind of discover and find that piece?
Cool. So first of all, your background noise there isn't any. You sound great. So second thing is, how much fun are you willing to have?
I'm working on that.
And it might seem like this redundant question, but there is something about having the joy of living and having a sense of, even if it's like the 10 seconds, you're like, oh, that was actually really fun. Oh, I enjoyed that. Whatever it may be, if you begin to acknowledge that space, that moment, that situation, whatever it was, where you're like, oh, that was fun, and begin to kind of perceive what that created in your body, what that was like for you, you can start to ask for more of that. And you begin to get a sense, oh, actually, this is not working for me. And because you don't always even know, you're like, muscling through your day or a situation. You're like, wait, that actually doesn't work for me. What can I be or do different to change this? But for me, it has been that sense of like, wow, there is an ease and a joy when you are having more of you. So what if today you could play with that and go, okay, what is that for me? And just ask the universe to show you today, where are those moments that I, quote unquote, feel more like me, have more of a sense of me, have that joy, and just begin to notice it. Because one of the things that I was so gratefully invited to notice is where I am resisting and avoiding being the airhead I truly be. So airhead, for those of you, it's like that sense of like being dingy and, what we judged as blonde. And I didn't realize how much I resisted that until he has asked me to use at least 2 bottles of peroxide. And then if I say something again, it's like, I need another bottle. But it's like, what if that sense of airhead is more of the lightness of you than you've acknowledged?
it's funny because my hair's been like getting lighter and lighter. It's like I'm headed in that direction, Sylvia.
More than you probably have acknowledged, Adele. Yes.
I mean, my hair is taking the lead.
So you can hear it right now in Adele's voice, right? There's that joy and that ease that is there. And yet, where do we make life and living so significant, or a certain situation or a certain conversation where we think we need to do something different? And it really is like, what if in any situation, you go for a job interview, whatever it is, what if you could ask, what energy is required here for me to actually get everything I want? And then how many judgments do you all have of the certain energies? It's like, no, I shouldn't be that. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't be like this. So all the shouldn'ts, couldn'ts, wouldn'ts that you have of what you could choose to actually create everything you'd like to create and have in your life, where you guys destroy and uncreate all that times a godzillion. Right, wrong, good and bad, pun, puck, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And I'm just noticing my battery's about to go out, so give me a quick second and I'll be right back.
Okay, that was pretty amazing.
What was that, Tiffany?
I said that, well, while you were sitting there getting your battery, I was just telling everybody, okay, now that was pretty amazing. What a totally interesting way to start looking at things.
What was that for you?
What all the couldn't, shouldn'ts, wouldn'ts, when you said that, it was like it was hitting everything. And I'm like, there it is. She found it. Wow.
Yeah. So what shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't are you using to stop you, Tiffany?
Quite a bit. Actually, that's been my dialogue lately these past couple weeks was, what are you doing? This is so stupid. Nobody's ever heard of doing this before. Why are you wanting to try this? What are you thinking? Are you crazy? You were a teacher. Why aren't you going? I mean, just that stuff is going through my head. Yeah. But nobody else has ever gone through that either here.
No. You begin to acknowledge, I might not be the only one with this insanity. And yet, have you asked yourself, who does this belong to?
Interesting that you're saying that. I just started doing that last night, but instead of does this belong to me? Pocket pod that. Whose is this? Pocket pod that. So as it's coming up, I'm just doing things like that. Because it has been peppering me a lot lately, and I realized, wow, there's a lot of energy. I'm feeling a lot of other people's energies too, which is another thing too, after doing a body class, and then now trying to do the energy. I feel like I'm being fire hosed with energy. And awarenesses. Yeah, and it could be a little overwhelming at times.
Okay, so truth. Would an infinite being be overwhelmed?
No.
And this is a great question for all of us, because what points of references do we have about what overwhelmed is and feels like? So everywhere you're using overwhelmed as a reason and justification to not actually choose to receive and be all that you be, will you destroy and create that times a godzillion?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pun, puck, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And it's incredible because actually this energy of overwhelmed, or it's too much, or it's too intense, is one of the things that we limit actually receiving the energy that's available to all of us. Yeah. So would you allow yourself to receive the energies that are there and let it contribute what it'll contribute, and the rest of it, let it go by? It's almost like that fly screen, or on, I don't know if everywhere in the world they have those, but here in California, we have the screens. You open up your sliding door or your window and you have those screens. What if it could be like that? You drop your barriers and you're like, fuck, this is intense. And even that sometimes is a point of view, but okay, wow, that is more than I was ever willing to acknowledge was there, right? Whether it's a judgment, a point of view. And what if you didn't have to stop it? So what would happen For you, Tiffany, what do you think would happen to you if you actually allowed yourself to receive all of what you're aware of?
That, whatever that beyond is that just went up, if I can move that out of the way, I could step into that. Whatever that is, I don't know if it's an emotion, a feeling, a perception, whatever that was that just flared up when you asked me that question that came up.
So for some people, it's like, fuck, I'll go crazy, or I'll become that. Okay, so everything that brought up for all of you, whatever the intensity, the thought, feeling, or emotion that you're perceiving is coming up or has come up, if you actually allowed yourself to receive it, what if you wouldn't become it? So everywhere you've been resisting and keeping it in existence rather than receiving it and allowing it to contribute to you and letting it pass, we destroy and uncreate all that times a godzillion. Right, yeah. Wrong, and bad, pun, pock, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. Did your body just relax?
Yeah. A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And this is where it's like everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, in the sense that we think we need to defend and protect ourselves from the judgments or the intensities or not being overwhelmed, which is actually what keeps us uptight, right? And possibly more in our heads than if we actually drop our barriers and receive it. Yeah.
So Sylvia, that part there is like a massive part of right voice for you, right? Like, so when we speak, and that's what I notice, whether it's speaking, singing, making an announcement, talking to someone, asking for money, you know, selling your products, whatever it is, it's like, it's receiving
yes.
the energy, receiving the judgments, receiving that people maybe lust after you, or receiving that they don't lust after you, or whatever it is going on in their worlds. Could we talk about that a bit more, like using our voice and receiving the energy that are receiving?
So in Access, we have different courses, and I'm not sure everybody on what class they have taken, but we talk more about this in Foundation and in other more advanced classes. But in Right Voice for You, we also talk about energy flows and being aware of whatever thoughts, feelings, or emotions people are having, that we are aware of it. We usually just think it's ours, you know, like, oh, I look fat, I sound awful, they don't understand me. They're like, what if 98% of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions didn't belong to you? Now, when I first heard that, I thought, that's crazy. No, whoa, that's crazy. And yet there was like, well, that actually feels really light. Like there's seems to be true, but it's crazy when I think about it. What do you mean 98% or more? But we'll stay at 90%, 98%. But if thoughts that go through your head, feelings that you're having, sensations, thoughts, feelings, and emotions that, wow, if 98% doesn't belong to you, what if it's irrelevant who it belongs to, but becoming aware of like, oh, wow, what if that's not mine? And then what if you could use it to your advantage? Because when we do speak to people, if some of you are making videos, if some of you, like even here on a Zoom, you might be perceiving all these different energies. And what if you really, wow, what is this? Does it belong to me? I mean, some people are really great that they'll ask a question. It's like, that wasn't my question, because you're already perceiving someone's thoughts and you're asking the question maybe that's in someone else's head. Not wrong or right. It's actually a capacity. But when you don't acknowledge it as a capacity, then you're making it wrong. So that sense of being aware of all these energies and just using it to your advantage. It's like when I facilitate someone, you know, when I was asking Tiffany some questions, it was like, she's like, funny you should say that. Like that was, you know, I was going through that this morning. I was thinking about that. When you're willing to actually receive what's there, it gives you information, and then you can speak to that. Which then is the magic of facilitation, the magic I find, because I was like, wow, consciousness, you're amazing. Because I'll ask a question that really isn't from the head, but more from the energy. And what it unravels and clears up the space for that person, I'm like, wow, I would have never thought to ask, hey, do you have a pet? Which sounds ridiculous, but yet there's this energy about that then unravels everything that was locked up around the pet. So a big, huge part is this receiving. So what have you all made so valuable, vital, and real about receiving judgment that keeps you from having way more of you? So everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right, wrong, good and bad, pun, puck, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. And then I have to ask, is judgment real? Truth. What do you guys know? Some of us that have taken a lot of classes will know, because I've heard that. But really, someone's judgment of you, you have an awful voice, you can't sing, you're ugly, you're fat, you're dumb. Truth. Is it real?
Well, it's not real, but we make it real, right? We make it significant. We make it matter.
So what has you make someone else's point of view and judgment matter to you?
I think I probably only make it matter if I make them more important to me.
So who or what have you made more important than you? And why the fuck would you make someone more important than you? So well, let's look at that. Like, wow. I mean, you think about your parents, maybe, teachers growing up, maybe siblings, maybe even some friends, maybe other facilitators. But when you make someone more important than you, what is that? You want to be liked? You want to be loved? You want to be accepted? You want to be included? You want to belong? And what if it's not wrong, but if you begin to acknowledge it, like, wow, what is it for me? Like, how much do I want to belong or be part of this group? It's like, that's interesting. So if I was having all of me, because once you're having all of you and more of your voice, guess what? People want to be with you. So how much are you actually avoiding people desiring to be with you? We have people come over and they don't want to leave. Yep. Whatever that is, like, wow. Are you willing to be so irresistible that people want to be with you all the time? Including your family. You're like, hell no, I don't want that. So everything that brings up, well, you guys destroy and uncreate all that. Right, wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts.
Sylvia, I'm so intrigued about the conversation that we're having, because I'm noticing myself being really like spaced out and a little like checked out, and I'm like listening, but I'm also like, oh, other things. And I'm like, and I notice it a lot in my vision. Like when I check out, like I stop focusing on anything. Like when I'm having a conversation, whether it's somebody like face to face and I just like won't look at them. I used to notice it a lot when I would like go on dates and stuff. So I'm just curious, like, cause you're talking about being you and receiving and relaxing in the presence with all of that. And it's like, I'm not sure even like what question to ask about that. It's like, what am I avoiding is what kind of.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, please.
So what have you already decided about that, or what that means to you?
That I'm not being present, that I'm checking out.
In truth, like, is that your point of view or someone else's?
Oh, someone else's?
Yeah. So how many of you have actually received that judgment? Like, you're not being present. Where'd you go? So everywhere you've been you have thought that that's true and real. That doesn't allow you to actually be in the question of what you're aware of and what it is. Will you destroy and uncreate all that?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good and bad, fun, talk, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds.
Thanks.
And you actually go a little more spacey.
Well, yeah. And as you were asking the question, I was thinking about like what Gary says about people who are autistic and how they function like spherically, and they are like way out here. And like, I was like, oh no, I'm just being autistic.
And have you judged being autistic?
I mean, probably somewhere along the way. Yeah.
Or have you been judged for being autistic?
Yeah, more that. And not in those words, but it was like all of the characteristics that I'm now like, oh, that's autistic and that's autistic. And like, for being aware and being space and being like, yeah.
It's so funny. You were on the call on audio live for the class, but I asked Gary about that. And he's all like, I'm getting that I might actually be more autistic than I've acknowledged. He's all, duh. I was like, oh, He goes, but someone who's autistic actually doesn't have the left brain, right brain. And they really are yes, no. Like, you know, does it actually matter, you know, what you're going to put on in the morning, what you're going to eat, or what, it's like, oh, actually, no. So everywhere you've made that a wrongness where it might be, you can choose one of your strongest capacities that you have and be, where you destroy and uncreate all that.
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pun, pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And yet, is it different than most people function in this reality?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when go ahead.
And I always like people would always ask me like, oh, where should we go and what should we do? And I was one of those people that was like, I don't really have a point of view about it. Like whatever, you know, like I'm having fun. Because it's funny because right before you were like, well, what's fun for you? I was like, I don't care. I'm having fun anyway. Like it doesn't really matter. I'll have fun wherever we go, whatever we do. And that's part of what I love about when we hang out, which hasn't happened in a long time, but it's like, all right, let's go. And like, it'll be fun. We'll just create an adventure. Like it doesn't really matter. But yeah, so that thing of like having no point of view and being space and having total allowance, like those are so characteristic of me. And it has been like a little bit like, we'll make a decision. And I'm like, okay, I can make a choice, but like, I also am so aware of all of their judgments and all of their points of view. And I'm like, why don't you just tell me what you want? Because I already know that you have a point of view and it's much stronger than mine.
Okay, so everything that brought up, will you destroy and create all that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good and bad, pun, pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So would you be willing to turn that up, Adele?
Yes. I went to like, I don't know what that means is what actually came up. But
so when
yes,
you're talking about like, hey, I'm willing to be like, okay, yes, no, this, that, and that space of like, it's like, how much are you trying to control that so it's not too much and too crazy?
Yeah, and I did hear like the word ping as you were talking about like the being that different, like is a form of like being insane, which came up in the class too. Is like, I was like, oh, that's really different. Like that's what insane is in this reality. It's not actually like insane. It's just that different and that much like ease and possibility and like, yeah.
So, you know, everybody can look at this for themselves. It's like, what is the difference you be, or what have you been working so hard to control that actually might be the invitation to so many more of us to go, oh, it's okay. It really is okay to be all of that, to be that strange, to be that, excuse me, that different. And for those of you that know Dr. Dane, when I first met him in person, and he was up on stage on his table, and he would jump to this, to that, to that, to that. I mean, wacky as can be, as he, you know, he even says, yeah, ADHD, autism, and all of this rolled up into one. I remember at a break, I said, oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. I did not know it was okay or that it wasn't wrong. So at that moment, I started to look at how much I was controlling to keep it together, to sound, whatever that was, to control the difference in the airhead I truly be, where that invites and relaxes so many people. And there's a difference when you're just kind of, you know, I don't know, it's not about, I think it was Brendan and Simone and their out of control call that we're talking about. It's not like about jumping up on the tables and screaming at the top of your lungs. I mean, that's a choice. And yet it really is this sense when you are being all of you, and having that ease, you actually are not controllable. So how much have you been perceiving the people that in the judgments they've had of you because they desire to control you? So everywhere you've been controlling you so that other people are comfortable around you, will you now destroy and uncreate all that? Right, wrong, good and bad, pun, pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
Okay, Sylvia, I'm just gonna let everyone know I'm gonna try keep this to like under an hour. We're gonna try keep it to 45 minutes. So people
that's right.
Watch it afterwards.
Not give people too much because then they won't come to class.
Yeah, and we want people to watch the video. We know you'll look at the video, see an hour, and be like, no. So, is there someone who has a question? If there is, just unmute yourself. If you have, if I know someone had their hand raised. Bianca, do you have a question?
Yeah. Can
Yeah?
you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
It was about showing up because it's the feeling is about showing up. I'm making different choices in my life to have a more balanced life, and what I'm getting is the willingness to have my voice and to show up in the world and have people
Beautiful.
see me as weird as I be.
So one of the things I heard you say that really popped was when you said to have a balanced life.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to you to have a balanced life?
Well, I have a family with 3 kids, so to be there for them and not always be at work and not always, like to do something that's fun for me. And lately it's only been access stuff that ignites me. And then even when I do it, my friends are like, we haven't seen you like this in years. We're so excited. So art stuff and access stuff really get me excited and really get me in that energy, and I'm trying to follow it. And at the same time, I get the pressure as I'm a government employee, so I get the pressure of having, oh my God, we need that stability in the family because I'm the stable salary. So it's like I want to do something totally crazy, but at the same time, I need that stability.
Yeah. So everything that is and everything that brings up for you and other people, will you destroy and uncreate all that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, putt, puck, shorts, boys, and beyond. And thank you so much, Bianca, for this, because these are some of the elements that keep people from actually choosing to have more of them. We're looking for the balance. We're looking for the stability. It's like we're looking for the right and avoiding the wrong of our choices and what will actually create what we know is possible. Mm-hmm. And this is the gift. So it's not like there's a recipe, follow these 3 steps or these 30 steps, whatever, right? I wish it could be that easy, right? But the gift here is that, Bianca, you actually know what will create more of that ease. So what do you truly desire? If it's not balance, what do you truly desire for you, for your family, for everything?
Well, I see that when I choose more, my kids see me choosing more, and they interact more and they choose more. Even though my eldest daughter says, I don't believe in any of that access stuff, she actually applies it. And so I'm trying to and for me, it's more of a feeling, and I'm trying to trust myself to follow the feeling of whatever feels light and right, like whatever has that energy to follow it. Because I've done like COP and everything else. And we always say, okay, you follow the feeling and keep following it. And it's to trust.
Well, if I can stop you there, only because this is actually an interesting part that many people, I think, start to misinterpret. So it's not follow the feeling. So what if because feeling is something your body has, right? Your body feels, you as an infinite being sense. So what are you actually aware of that you're misapplying and misidentified as a feeling? And yet it's a place we start too. It's like, well, it just feels lighter, right? But what are you actually aware of that space? So truth, is it more of the awareness of the possibilities that you sense?
Yes.
Like,
I get a strong yes, the energy.
Yes. Okay. And in this reality, people will call you insane for some of the choices that you're aware of have that space and possibility, right? So, most people will ask you to justify and give reason. Well, why are you choosing that? That doesn't make sense, right? So
even though like the other job as bullying in it and everything else, most people would choose the stability.
Yeah. So I've resigned 2 full-time positions in my time within Access, which it's not like a recommendation. It really is being in the question. There's, I was a elementary school teacher when I first started Access. Hey, I had, stability of my retirement plan of a job. The economy went down in 2011, 12. People were losing their jobs, losing their house. I actually resigned during that time.
Okay.
Crazy. Total insanity. What the hell, right? And it's not like I had a business plan. My husband at the time was like, what's your business plan? And I was like, gosh, why does that just like the energy is like this? And yet I kept choosing. And then at one point I resisted a full-time job and then I followed the energy and I ended up working for an incredible wine company here in California, internationally known as well. And it was expensive. So then I went through a divorce while I was with that company. And then there came, supposedly it was going to be a year, 3, almost 4 years later. I looked at the energy and the possibilities and, 6-figure income, paid for my car. It was, what most people in this reality go, hey, what the hell?
You got the life. Yeah.
Yes. I resigned. And yet there is a sense, on both occasions, there was a sense of, oh, fuck. And yet at that moment, my earlier first resignation of the job, someone's all, Sylvia, it's like, the words I used, well, I chose, what did I chose? What did I say? My passion versus the fear were the words that I used at the time. But what it was like, this was the space here where fear and like staying in a stability was dense. Now, this is where you really, truly need to acknowledge, all of you, what have you already chosen? It actually takes courage. So it really, and when I worked at this last job in the wine company, I started to explore. My manager knew I was doing access, but I was doing it at 5 a.m. in the morning or at 10 p.m. at night, like wherever I could squeeze it in. And yet there was always the sense of, like, I knew it was there. And as I chose more with them, there was a resistance not to let it go. And I'd love to say that I had a huge savings. I'd love to say that I had all these things scheduled when I resigned, and I didn't. And yet, who could I count on? So who can you count on that's going to create?
Yeah, pretty much me.
Exactly. And this is where so truth, are you going to end up in the streets? Are you going to let your family end up in the streets?
No. I was getting a yes at first. Now I'm getting a no.
Yeah. And this is, so that courage, and this doesn't mean like,
is yes, but the truth is no.
Exactly. And in this reality, believe you, my manager did not want me to go. They were really trying to do everything they could. Well, we can make this work. And, and yet it was a very courageous choice. But the reason I'm sharing this is for you to actually begin to ask yourself, when, how, because you guys can all use everything you've created. If you are working full time right now, how could you use that to your advantage? What ease and gift is that job to you in your life right now? And what else can you start creating, another times or moments in your day?
Yeah. So I'm sort of at the standpoint of whenever I think of going back, I start feeling sick. So I think that's pretty much the awareness.
Going back to 6 years old?
No, I start feeling sick whenever I think of going back to. I'm on leave right now, and whenever I think of going back to work in that environment, I start feeling like, ugh.
So, what is your body actually telling you?
Yeah, that I need a change, and it's not necessarily. That's where the plan kind of goes worry, because I have many plans. One is, going crazy doing access full time. One is like, okay, let's look for another job that lets me do access part time, things like that.
I also will invite you guys all to begin to ask, what does doing access actually mean to you?
Okay.
Because oftentimes, I enjoy facilitating a lot. I really do. And yet, what if access, what it truly is inviting us, is to be and have all of us every second of the day? So what if it's just not doing access, meaning something outside of you, but truly you living? So when you look at the tools of access, they're designed to be pragmatic for you to use at every moment of the day. You're at the grocery store and you perceive this intensity. Who does it belong to? Not me. Okay, you have more of you again. You go through the buys like, oh, that's expensive. Da da da. Truth. Who does that belong to? Oh, not mine. Truth body. Would you like this? Okay. Can we create more to have this next time? Okay. So what if
I'm going crazy because of my projection and expectation of how it's going to show up.
Yeah. And how much is that the control? I need to know how it's going to show up in order for me to know what to choose now.
Yeah, a lot.
And I'm sure you're the only one, Bianca.
Probably.
So this is where also, are you all willing to have more kindness with you? If you truly are beginning to choose more in your life and are asking for more, are you willing to have the kindness? Because we've been choosing to function from this reality, other people's points of views, resisting their judgments, looking to be the best we can be, but from the judgment, it's like, would you be willing to be kind and go, okay, what can I choose today that would be kind for me? What, right? And so you go to work tomorrow, let's say. It's like, okay, I'm at work. How can I make this the best day ever? What can I choose to be and do different today that will create more for me and for other people? And then how much fun can you have? Because that's, when I worked, believe me, there was days like I didn't want to go to work because I'd rather facilitate a class. And yet there was days like, wait, I'm here. What can I facilitate here? So much that when I did resign, they asked me to come back as a consultant. So what could you actually create within that company that would create more for you in the future? So everything that doesn't allow all of you to look at what you have chosen in your life, what you're choosing now, and what you can actually receive from it that will create more in your future. Will you destroy and then create all that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, pun, pock, all 9 shorts, boys, and beyond.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have my husband in the background mocking me. I think we have to wrap it up, Sylvia.
Yes, I could be here all day.
I know you could.
But I would love to invite you all. If there's any energy, you will know. Like, we offer so many different classes in Access, and then there's the specialty programs. But if right voice for you, if there's something about it, you ask yourself, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 and 10 years? And if I don't, what will my life be like in 5 and 10 years? And is it now? Is it later? Like for me, I just want people to know they have a choice and that there is a possibility available with Right Voice for You. We're offering the 3-day classes in Miami at the end of January.
Florida. We don't know if it's Miami yet. It's South Florida. Somewhere between Miami and Boca Raton.
And you can also choose the 1 day, like whatever your situation is, know that you can choose the 1 day and then jump into the full 3 days or jump into the full 3 days. And you can come in person and online.
So the 1 day is the 1 day Right Voice for You on Friday, 26th of January. And then you can just do that, or then you can carry on and do the 27th and 28th, which is the master class.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of other classes coming up too, right, Sylvia?
Yes. So for those of you that it may be easier to go out to Colorado, I have a Colorado class. Heather Nichols is the host there. You can contact her or myself. And that's coming up this month on the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And Ina, who's also online, we had an India class that I brilliantly created some unawareness around my passport. And for those of you that don't know, in your U.S. passport, you have pages that are visa pages and pages that are endorsement pages. India requires 2 visa pages that I did not qualify. And so anyways, the acknowledgement there is that I had filled up my passport in less than 2 years. So now with the new passport, we're looking at dates for India.
And we are translating the Florida class into Spanish.
Yes.
And if enough people request Portuguese, we'll make that happen too. But we need to know soon.
Yeah. So the gift is, I so love when people choose it because we will make it happen. And you have a team with, Amy, Marta translating Spanish, and you have Rihanna assisting and Tiffany also assisting with creating this class that there are people coming from different parts of the world, and they'll give you locations that you can stay that are nearby. And for those of you that'd like to come out to Mexico, I will be there this weekend. Why not? So on the 2nd, I'm going to Mexico City. And again, for me, it's like, how many more people would these tools really contribute to having everything they desire in their life? And what if, you could have more of that joy and that ease and that space to be you, no matter what shows up, no matter what or who shows up.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Thank you so much, Sylvia.
Yay! Thank